No, we'll
That's
get
in
back
my
on
craw,
that.
brother, that I never got to work with you.
Dude, I was in such a different headspace back when that window of opportunity presented itself, and sometimes I kick myself in the ass over it, and I think, man, I don't know. I was so frazzled towards the end. I was just in a bad space, and I don't know. It never happened, and it should have happened. But you know what I think, if we could have just gotten a room, you and I, and just talked, because you know what? And you probably never knew this, but I was down, and we're going to jump back to a little bit of, stuff back in the early days of WWF. But you remember when you had, those 7 out of 8 WrestleManias down there in WWF, you left, man, what, 93, 92, but you ended up in WCW in
94.
Okay, I remember all of a sudden the word on the street. I'm Stunning Steve, man. I'm upcoming. I'm going to be the next Ric Flair. Well, we always know that there's never going to be another Ric Flair. There's never going to be another Hulk Hogan. There's only going to be the next whoever you are. But all of a sudden, here comes the biggest attraction in the history of the business to WCW, and I'm thinking, great. And I'm sitting there right across from you. We're in your house, and I say this with respect, because I've respected your career, but I'm thinking, okay, here comes the top attraction in the world. He's coming to WCW. I was fine when you were in WWF, but all of a sudden you come down there, and now I'm another notch further down the ladder. And I always had this grudge against you because now, you were the guy.
Yeah.
Now, how am I going to overtake this when I can't even get past, 3/4 mid-card status? So there was always that grudge, and it was competitive. I was like, man, why is this guy here now? Well, I know why you're here now in retrospect when I look back. But when you're in the trenches and you're in the ring every night, there's that competitive part. You watch NBA players or Major League Baseball players, NFL players talk about another player. They'll put him over to a degree, but it's never very much because it's so competitive. I call him the greatest in-ring performer of all time as far as execution and being able to do everything. Back in the day, I was a high spot artist. That was my perception back in because I couldn't put him over then.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was always this thing, and then all of a sudden I turn into Stone Cold, and then you come back from WCW, where I got squashed down another notch. But I think if we'd ever gotten to a room and had just a chill conversation, we probably could have done business together. And that'd probably be one of the biggest regrets of my career, other than not, jobbing for Brock. Well, I never would have done a job, but I would have loved to have worked a program with you. But you know what I mean? When you get caught up in inner workings, I guess I was in my head, and I guess I worked myself into a shoot, and it was just a dumb thing for me to do.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that you got to treat people on a case-by-case basis, and certain people have a grudge or a hard-on, or they don't misunderstand, or they're out of their mind, or they're consumed with something because it could be business or personal, or you just don't know what's going on. And when I went down to WCW, I had some personal stuff at home that I would walk down the hallway and there would be 20 people in the hallway and I didn't see anybody. I was out of my mind. I was so worried about my home life and the problems I was having at home that, stuff happened. And I don't mean to call anybody out, but stuff happened, for instance, where and maybe this was in the WWF or whatever it was when I went back for the Raw's 15th anniversary, but I walked in the dressing room there and there was a guy there named CM Punk. I didn't know who he was. And I heard I had heat because when I came back, I didn't say hello to him when I walked through the hall. But I remember that night flying in with RVD from California, and I was going through so much crap on the phone when I landed, and my whole life was falling apart at home, that when I walked through that dressing room, brother, all I could think about was, I just need to get home and fix my life falling apart. And I don't remember seeing, meeting, talking, or disrespecting anybody that day, but I had to live with that because I was in that space at the time. So when I went to the WWE and I knew I was working with The Rock, I'm all about making the money, brother. And as a heel, I could put anybody over and go back the next week and say, Stone Cold never beat me. I could lie my ass off. So when I got the reaction I had with The Rock, my sights were set on you because I thought it was going to be you first. But Vince asked me to work with The Rock, and I said, sure, but I was trying to get to you, and I understand you had a bunch of physical stuff and maybe mentally, so I get it, bro. I totally get it. And we would all like to wind the clock back, but I've been there, and I've done stuff not knowing I did it that got heat on me. I've made decisions If I was arguing with Vince and I made decisions I wish I could have changed them. People don't understand what's really going on all the time, but I get that, brother. But the one thing I wanted to tell you, if I could have ever got to you, was I'm like this in the ring, bro. I'm like, I got the Ray Stevens thing going on, you know what I'm saying? And so if your legs were hurt or something, I'd have never touched you. That's what I wanted to tell you, that we can do this.
And it wasn't the physicality thing, because I could have still gone. It was just because I was so on a different page. And I guess I was pissed off. I was, getting fizzled out, I was running hard. I want to fast forward a little bit, and we can't cover your whole career, and nor was I trying to. But when Ultimate Warrior came in, all of a sudden he starts coming in and getting hot. I was playing football at North Texas State University. He was coming in Dingo Warrior. And he'd already been to Blade Run with Sting down in Tennessee. I said, hey, man, this guy's probably going somewhere, mechanically in the ring, and Zach Wilde from Black Label Society, that's his favorite wrestler. Yeah. And, against guys, as far as reading crowds or workers, I think probably you would agree with me on this, or I've heard you say it, you can disagree. To me, the greatest professional wrestler that ever lived was Nature Boy Ric Flair.
For me?
Yeah.
I call him my champion. And when I talk to him on the phone a couple times a week, I said, how's the greatest wrestler that ever lived doing today? That's how I feel about him.
We're on the same page, right?
Yes, sir, brother.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, and you're probably the biggest draw of all time.
He had the gimmick, and he worked the Stone Cold, the Hulk Hogan gimmick. He had the Ric Flair gimmick, but he fucking wrestled like Jack Briscoe and Harley Race, and he was believable. And he could put everybody over, and he didn't need to win because he would roll out of the ring bleeding with a belt, and he'd just stumble off into oblivion. He knew how to do it all. He could do it all.